Welcome to the Bridge. I'm your host, Kira Young, and you've reached me on People's Internet Radio. Tonight is March 28th, 2015, and it's already turned into March 29th over in the UK and Ireland. Tonight's show will be the last time that it's happening at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time in America, because tonight the UK and Ireland will join us with the whole daylight savings thing. So we'll go back to a 5-hour difference, and my show will go back to being at its normal 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, thank you all for joining us tonight. I have a really great show planned. I've invited back a really great guest that I've had before and that you all know. And tonight we're going to talk about his book called Revolve, Man's Scientific Rise to Godhood. Welcome to the Bridge, Aaron Franz.
Thank you for having me here tonight, Kara.
I'm very impressed with your book. It's very well written and very well researched. Very well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it means a lot to me.
I did find that it was profoundly disturbing as well, so I had to take it a lot easier than I thought I would be able to. I literally had to put it down at times because that's how profoundly disturbing it was. Or it is.
Well, sorry about that.
But you know, it's something that we got to really talk about because it's really happening, and you laid it out. So let's talk a little bit about the players and the Transhuman Project. What is it? When did it start? Who's involved? And why should, go ahead with that, and then we'll get on with
Sure. Well, there's lots of different ways to answer that question. You could say that's been going on ever since Eve took the apple in the Garden of Eden. That's sort of the symbolic beginning of man's fall and his realization that mankind's realization that they could create things, and of course the scientific method has come along throughout the years, and the place we're at today is so odd with the way that science and technology is, and it's taken so much for granted. Where we're at the space and time, where we're at in history, and the whole scope of human history. But we've got technologies abounding all around us these days, and they're being developed faster and faster. And I guess that's kind of the essence of the whole Transhuman Project right there, is technology and the nature of technology and how it's expanding, growing, and it's in many senses starting to build upon itself. And that's the concept of the technological singularity concept, is that in overdrive, where an artificial intelligence machine would actually be created where it's self-aware and able to improve upon itself and gain knowledge, and that's the singularity concept. And the transhumanists applaud that, and they want to see that happen, because their whole idea is that we do need to make sure that technology drives along as fast as possible. The faster the better, really, because solve all of humans' problems. That's their idea. And the Transhuman Project, of course, as most people realize, is that merging of technology and humanity, of man and machine, this cybernetic merge of man and machines, so that the AI machine may be artificially intelligent and doing its own thing, but the real idea would be to merge with that, so that the AI and the human being would become this one new entity. And that's ties into science fiction, of course, but there is very real research going on in this field, and that's where the real project is happening, is where you can find the real research happening in these areas. And lo and behold, there's lots of projects going on. I typically point out that they're going on in the military-industrial sphere. You get a lot of progress there in terms of what are called transhuman technologies, and of course that's one of the big problems, is that's where the development is happening to a huge extent. I mean, nearly all of it's happening there. And the proponents of transhumanism, who call them transhumanists, act as though that isn't the case, when it clearly is. That it's not that they overtly try to... it's more that they're omitting it. They just don't point that out, that the military is the one primarily developing these technologies. They just don't tell you that. They kind of throw out the fairy tale version of reality, in that, there are inventors, and inventors create all the new technologies, and they're guys that are working in like a little shed, and eventually they reach the American dream. They become millionaires because they were intelligent and wise inventors, and that's how America works, right? It's all based on people's individual people doing their own thing. That's how it works, right? There's no overarching system that controls most nearly anything of any importance. No, that's not it. This is America, and we're all free and independent, and we're all, every single one of us is about to become a millionaire, right? So there's just so much to go off on. I've already gone off on a tangent, sorry.
So in order to get humanity even used to the idea of merging with the machine, what better way to present it than through propaganda, and what better outfit to present the propaganda than the military-industrial complex, or military and intelligence? And this doesn't just involve the military; it involves all of us, and it doesn't just involve propaganda as far as presenting the idea of man merging with machine as a good idea, but also in measuring, I think at this point, in measuring where humanity's at with it through social media. So monitoring social media to see where people are at with the idea, and then molding the propaganda machine to target those audiences that are not quite up to speed yet in liking the idea.
Yeah, I definitely think that social media is used as a giant analytics tool for the Pentagon and all others interested in swaying mass opinion, and just knowing where mass opinion is, and understanding what the zeitgeist is, what the collective consciousness might be, and therefore trying to mold actual real psychological warfare strategies based on that information. That is happening. There are projects here and there, and there's some sort of more inane things that you see that I always kind of wonder about. Years ago, there was this, when Twitter was kind of new, there was this web page. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it would track all the trends on Twitter, like all the trending hashtags and stuff, and you could show a map of the U.S. or the world even, and it showed you the different tags that were the most popular things at the time, and that'd be in big bold letters, and then smaller letters would be the less popular ones. And so there'd be all sorts of little stuff like that were just common knowledge sorts of things. And with that in mind, one has to wonder what other projects there are going, because I mean, when it comes to military projects, there's DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They put out so many contracts for different projects. They just come up with as many different project ideas as they can, basically, and then they put the idea out there. And then if any sort of company can, or university or whatever, can fulfill that contract with an actual project, then they'll get funded. If they can show that they can pursue that, they'll get funded, and then they're working with the Defense Department at that time. And so there's just so many of those things. No one can keep track of all of them. There's tons of them. The DARPA YouTube channel, there's a DARPA YouTube channel. And following that gives you a pretty good idea of some of the stuff they do. And it's pretty amazing, the stuff that's on there. I guess I'd add on the military sphere of things, you're talking about propaganda. I'll just point this out real quick, and that the propaganda side and the promotion through media is also tied to the Pentagon, the Defense Department, because all branches of the military have their entertainment liaison offices that work directly with Hollywood producers to produce films, and a lot of those films that are about transhuman topics, you'll find the Air Force or some other branch of the military has worked on those films with the film producers in association with the entertainment liaison offices. So that's something that actually does happen. So it's on all sides, it really is a military project as far as I'm concerned, the development aspect, and then the promotion aspect, which doesn't even get noticed as such, as being propaganda, as being promotion. We just think that movies are entertainment, and that's it.
Right, and that's why I like how you and Adam have taken on the themes and memes, and you're looking at various movies and sort of breaking it down and what the messages are in those movies about transhumanism and other issues as well. But it is, I recently watched the Matrix Trilogy again for the transhumanist message in that, and it's pretty clear. It's astoundingly clear in there. Even though the first layer, they're fighting machines, but what are they using to fight those machines? And then there's this sort of romantic, I don't know, they make it so romantic that when they go into the Matrix and, their connection with the machine itself, and throughout the trilogy it builds too to where they're part of this sort of enhanced robot/human army, that's fighting the evil machines. And
it's almost as if there's sort of like an S&M sexual deviant sort of undercurrent to it between machine and human in that movie a little bit. Like just with like some of like the leather and stuff, and then they shove that thing up in the back of people's skull. It's just kind of like gross and disgusting, but it's also kind of perverse and sexual in a weird way, you know what I mean? Yeah, instead of, like they're getting their brains fucked, Yeah, exactly. You got it.
To put it, sort of in street terms, that's what it is. It's really, but I think that really plays into the paradise engineering aspect of what you opened up in your book, which I found really interesting, because it also goes into the medical industry too. It's where these transhumanist elements sort of cross paths with and how you can see it also pushed in the medical industry as well through, drugs.
Yeah, definitely. That whole the paradise engineering thing was something that when I was researching that, it really blew me away because the actual and the guy's name eludes me now. It's been so long since I've looked at him. But the guy from BLTC Research, this is a group it's a transhumanist group, and the guy that was the head of it was a lead transhumanist, and I guess his name's David Pierce. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. He was connected to Bostrom and the other big transhumanists too, but his BLTC research was specifically what they were after was trying to figure out how to eliminate all pain whatsoever from human existence. Like, that was their goal, and in that goal they would try to pursue research projects or find scientific evidence from other research that just helped them along in that cause. And they would cite all sorts of stuff about MDMA, ecstasy, other drugs, and how those drugs worked, and the good sides of that, and it just blew my mind, the fact that they seriously thought that they could or that we should get rid of any sort of unpleasant feelings. I mean, even sort of innocuous, inane sort of unpleasant feelings, like you stub your toe and it hurts. Like, to them that would be an atrocity that needs to somehow be engineered out of our biology, so that you stub your toe and you don't feel anything. You know what I mean? So, something like that. So I struggle to know where to begin talking about that, because it's such a bad idea. I mean, to delete pain is one thing, but the big thing with the transhumanists is sort of emotional pain, emotional anguish, and also like neurosis. They think that all those things should just be deleted by some sort of transhuman intervention. Like, you put a brain chip in, and it somehow gets rid of some sort of mental problem that you have. Say schizophrenia, even if you have schizophrenia, it's cured by the chip. But something less intense than schizophrenia, let's just say you've got your manic depressive. So your manic depressive, so instead of taking pills, the medical research shifts away from the pills to new kinds of technologies that are more efficient in just making you feel good all the time. And beyond taking away real problems like manic depression, somebody who doesn't really have any problem at all, we're going further and further here, somebody who doesn't have a problem, but they just feel bad sometimes, and they feel sad even, well, somehow you'd have a switch on the side of your head that you could switch it from sad to happy. And they literally want this sort of thing. They think that would be good, because it's not good to feel bad, right? That's a bad thing. Feeling bad has to be bad. That's basically what they're saying. I mean, they do it in fancy terms, and they act like they're being scientific, and they get up on their high horse about it. But when it comes down to it, all I can ever think of is that Ren and Stimpy episode where Stimpy gets he makes that happy helmet in his laboratory, he puts it on Red's head, and Red is usually always pissed off at Stimpy and like kicking him around and stuff, but now Stimpy's able to push a button, he's always happy, and he gets this fake grin from ear to ear, and he can't do anything except be happy all the time. It makes him crazy. I just always think of that episode when I think of the BLTC research and the paradise engineering idea. That always pops up to mind.
Yeah, and this actually crosses over into our conceptions about spirituality too, and all of the ideas about spirituality that are pushed onto us, as in, it's all about the positive, right? That spiritual growth is completely ignoring the negative. And if you bring anything up, you're just a downer, and you need to start focusing on the positive. So it's a great mechanism of control, because any sort of attention to the negative is seen as a threat. to this the system that is, our medicated utopia or our paradise engineering model that we're looking at, and we're turning into it too. I mean, when you look at the types of medications that are rapidly on the rise that people are taking for normal human emotions, people are taking antidepressants for grieving. I mean, it's not normal. We have to grieve. We have to grieve in order to feel that pain, let it go, and then come back around to joy again. You'll never get back around to joy again if you don't face that dark night of the soul. So it's lulling people into this constant numbness, and that's when people are most controllable. So, I think that's the underlying, agenda there with the paradise engineering, is just people are so blissed out in a sort of non-authentic way that they never really have to think about what's wrong in the world and at least do their part in trying to fix it, at least in their own life. So, and this also ties into actually it ties in also to the eugenics, because eugenics is what first brought us the family planning and birth control, and really women became hooked on pills, birth control pills. I recently went off them, and I realized how much that numbed me out on an emotional level. Not just prevented pregnancy, but there was actually this the normal cycle that I should have been going through emotionally wasn't happening for me because my hormones were being jerked around in an unnatural way. So I did want to get into eugenics too, because that's a huge part of all of this, and that's when I'm going to talk about what I've seen in the news lately and how it all hooks in. But I wanted you to build up the idea a little bit about where eugenics came from and where you think it is now.
Sure. Yeah. Eugenics. The history, I mean, again, you could trace it really far back, but it starts, so the guy named Francis Galton, really, the 1800s there, he was a guy who was very much, he was a materialist scientific guy, and on from Galton, it followed on down to Darwin and some... Mostly, not even so much Darwin, but the people who took the ideas of Darwin and put them into a social context. That's what eugenics is social Darwinism, and becoming political based on social Darwinism. So you got the idea in Darwinism that there's evolution, survival of the fittest is a popular idea there. So that concept is tied into the idea that only the strongest survive, anything that's weak gets killed off, so it favors more ruthless tendencies, and again, this is all human interpretations of nature, so it's all about, that's what it's all about, is what sort of human traits are we worshiping and pretending it's science here. We're worshiping those that are ruthless and they don't care, and they're psychopathic, and looking after the individual and just destroying anything else that might be standing in the way. It doesn't matter. So social Darwinism, yes, is an extreme thing. It's an extreme idea because it's taking that survival of the fittest concept and it's putting it into the social context where we now say, okay, this is the way that society just naturally is, that, the strongest are the ones they're the leaders, they're the ones in control, they naturally get there, they find their way there because it's a natural process after all. The most ruthless, the most psychopathic people are in charge, and we can prove this with science now, so you can't argue with that. And then, going further, it's about those people who actually literally being in power, the ruthless people, and then they get to legitimate that scientifically, and they start making laws and saying, okay, yeah, we're the natural heirs to any given throne, so we got to make sure that things stay this way, and it's fine if we just kill off people and euthanize people and all this, and it doesn't matter because they're the ones at the bottom and we're the ones at the top, and that's how it is. And that's an oversimplification, I'll admit, but that's basically it. You've had all sorts of interesting eugenic laws passed throughout the 1920s, especially. Eugenics was huge, and genetics was kind of a burgeoning science coming up, and again, genetics was infiltrated by social Darwinism in a big way from its inception. A lot of geneticists and big universities and stuff were very much into social Darwinism, and they were proposing this, and they would be the ones who would be actually helping to push the political side of sterilization laws, all that kind of crazy, more extreme ends of what came to be with the eugenics movement there in the 1920s, because there did get to be quite a few laws like that passed, but thank goodness they didn't get too far before people started protesting. They couldn't continually pass these laws, so they kind of had to go underground. The eugenics idea never went away. It just had to be hidden, the crypto-eugenics idea, where you use different concepts that sound light and fluffy and very approachable and non-threatening, and you actually covertly do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise if it were just overtly eugenics, like sterilization laws. So everybody can understand what's going on there. You have to be trickier, you have to be sneakier, and throughout, I really feel like with the 20th century, with public relations, marketing, and this crypto-eugenics thing fits into it too, it was like a development of concealing devious intent. Like there was so much in that vein, and a lot of scientific and like psychological research going into like tricking people, and with marketing, I mean that's basically all that marketing is psychological tricks to fool people into doing things they normally wouldn't. So using all those sorts of social sciences, psychology, to get people to believe that they're doing something different than they actually are, and you can pull off eugenic projects by simply camouflaging them in many different sorts of ways, just calling them something different. You can say you're doing one thing and do another, and people believe it based on what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's presented in the guise of being helpful. So we're going to help you with your family planning, right? And we're going to help you even with your vaccinations. I'm sure that mandatory vaccinations, that whole idea, probably came out of the same ideology.
I'll just point out that Jonas Salk guy, the polio vaccine inventor guy, he was big-time eugenicist. He actually spoke at a lot of eugenics conferences. So a big guy in the vaccine movement, I don't know if you want to call it that, but developing vaccines, a big name in that, and a big name that they still use in praising vaccines today. He was a major eugenicist, and you never hear that today.
Right, and so there's this huge battle about them, because people are wising up to the fact that vaccines aren't really all they're cracked up to be. People's children are being injured by them. My son had a reaction to the DPT vaccine, so particularly the pertussis vaccine, and a lot of babies have reactions to it. It's very, very common, and I was lucky that I had that information at the time, because the guidelines say, if the baby cries more than 3 hours, straight after the shot, then you don't want to have another one, or there could be neurological damage, right? So my son, who cried for 2 hours, and this is a baby who never cried because all of his needs were anticipated, because me and his father are older parents. That's what older parents do. So I mean, he never even had to cry for a night feeding or anything, because he slept with me, and I just knew when he needed to eat, and I would wake up and go right back to sleep. It was real easy. So he cried for 2 hours straight, and I told the doctor there's no way, and the doctor wanted to do a second one because he hadn't cried for 3 hours. That's where guidelines and common sense sort of So and had I listened to the doctor, my son could have permanent neurological damage from that, thinking that I was doing the right thing. But and then I started researching after that, thinking, wow, what's up with this? And it's not all it's cracked up to be. And I would get the flu every time I got a flu shot, so I stopped getting the flu shot, and I stopped getting the flu. It was amazing how that happened, right?
Man, that vaccine thing that's one that is difficult for me to deal with, just because of how it's getting more and more difficult because of, in a large sense, the anti-vaccine crowd, I guess. Like, I've seen a lot of stuff through social media and whatnot, just trying to decry anybody who has any kind of questions or problems with vaccines, whatever, as idiots, and there is no problem, and just using the most base and profane messages of, oh, you're stupid if you think vaccines are bad. And that's basically what they're saying. It's just a whole lot of, it just makes me sad, because it's a lot of just normal people that I otherwise don't have any problems with at all with, but they're falling for this, and it's just like, what are you doing? You're not helping anything. It's just the way that people are set against each other is just, it's very difficult. It gets me every single day that it's a battle. I mean, I know that you can relate to this, Kara.
Oh, absolutely, And I don't quite fit the mold when I'm talking to people about this, because I was raised by scientists. My mother was a microbiologist, and my stepfather is a PhD geneticist, actually.
Wow.
So I'm not, I grew up around them talking shop. I know what all of these things mean, so and even my mother and my stepfather questioned things about vaccines as well, so and they would agree that the peer review system is flawed, and it's not working anymore. It's sort of bought and paid for. Companies pay for the results that they want, so that they can market them. So that's just a fact in the industry. That's just how it's going.
It's funny how that in any given industry, whatever any single person happens to be in, you see how the inner workings work and how all the little con jobs operate. And you're on the inside, you're like, oh God, this is such BS. And you can see it because you work there and you have all the evidence. But the people outside don't see all the little details. And you kind of want to tell them, but there's a big backstory, so you don't bother. And it's this bad part of your life that you don't even want to bring up anyway. So I just see the population at large is just a whole bunch of people doing this. They just see the crappiest aspect of whatever their job happens to be, and they carry that around with them, but they don't know what to do about it. But the greater, bigger picture that everybody kind of has the same story, the entire system, in any given industry is it operates in a bad way, in sort of a consistent manner throughout any given industry. I think you can make that case and really bring out a lot of evidence for that. And so the big picture is always lost, but at the same time, I think everybody, because they have the evidence in their own little niche area of their life, they see what's going on, but it's the big picture that needs to be put together, I guess. I don't know. That's what we're trying to do, I guess.
Is put the big picture together, and I would encourage people who do see those little things in whatever industry they're in or wherever they're working to let the world know. I started a blog because of what I experienced working for the government in disaster assistance at the federal level. I went in to do my compassion work, that's what it's all about. And I'm actually prevented from it because of the bureaucratic system that is in place. It actually prevents those that are best at what they do from doing that. Whatever you're best at, we're going to prevent that from happening because psychopaths are in charge, and they're going to make sure, your natural gifts and abilities are always a threat to them. And
so they stifle you.
And that happens everywhere. Absolutely
it does.
Everywhere.
I see it. I mean, I see people with the best jobs, like the best job you can think of on paper, like the most creative, exciting job that, like, you talk to any given kid and you say that job, like, whoa, that'd be awesome to do when you grow up. And I know people with jobs like that, but I can't think of even one person that's truly happy doing that job. And it's because of the same bureaucratic system that's in place in whatever the given field is. It's a mess, and management is a horror, and all the wrong people are put into positions of power, and it's just the same across the board. And I mean, nobody can convince me otherwise of this, and I think anybody who's honest about things knows that this is the case. I think anybody can relate to this.
Yeah, I think it actually goes back to some of the stuff that you were talking about in the beginning of the book, where you're talking about democracy as a meme, right? It doesn't really exist. It's an idea floating out there. But yet, with the right propaganda, you can push it to the point where, the government is starting wars all over the world to bring democracy to those areas, but we don't have it here, and certainly war is not going to bring it there because it doesn't exist. So I was taking this idea a bit further about democracy as a meme, and looking at all sort of political ideas as a meme, and how that plays out. And what really popped up for me was also sovereignty. Sovereignty is a meme as well. It doesn't really exist. We're not really free. We're just not. Should we be? Yes. Is that perhaps our, divine right? Because we exist? Yes. Are we there yet? Hell no. Not in any way. Right? And the really interesting thing about sovereignty as a meme is that in America we have this idea of tribal sovereignty for the tribes. That doesn't exist either. The tribal government system is set up based on the same bureaucratic system that the American government is set up with. So it's just a model after that. So the same bureaucracy that holds back everything good from happening does that for the tribes too. But what it also does is that it tricks tribal members into giving up their whatever degree of personal sovereignty they have to an idea, and that is the idea of tribal sovereignty that doesn't exist. And I think that is the same for the idea of America, that doesn't really exist either.
All it takes is just a couple corrupt individuals within that little system, too, to just keep it going. And there you have it. You throw them their little prizes for keeping the system going, and that's about all there is to it. It's crazy. Yeah. Democracy as a meme, the democracy and keeping the world safe for democracy was a Bernays PR campaign there, all the way back from World War I. So that's an old one, but it's from one of the masters of the 20th century, the master spin doctor, marketer, public relations propaganda man, Bernays, who is one of the most famous in that field. But there have been many whose names we never know, but have done many.
Well, it's still, it's still being used too, isn't it? That's how brilliant of a propaganda person he was, because it's still being used. But at the same time, it's an MO that we're all familiar with. So, where does this lead us now? Because really, anarchy is a meme too.
Yeah.
It doesn't really exist. And it's as a meme, it's used by creative people to open people up to the idea of self-rule, and then it's used by the system to portray those who are open, who would like to rule themselves as enemies of the state, terrorists.
It's a perfect scapegoat. Yeah. Used as that regularly. Oftentimes in protest settings, they're the anarchists. Most of your audience, I'm sure, is aware of that little trick they do with the agent provocateurs and the protest. I mean, that's just par for the course. Any given protest or any given grassroots political movement is going to get infiltrated by these intelligence people, and they could be working for local law enforcement, doing sort of counterintelligence work for local law enforcement, or they could go deeper in that. They could be working from the federal level, be from some sort of federal agency doing counterintelligence work within grassroots movements. And I mean, people. The problem with that is that in the alternative realm here, the truth movement and all other grassroots movements, people can tend to get overly paranoid about everything. But at the same time, it's right to look out for those things. So the real trick is one of sort of mental and consciousness finesse, where you're able to understand that these things exist. Yes, there is counterintelligence, and yes, if I'm in a legitimate grassroots movement, I'm going to encounter that. I have to look out for that, careful, and shield myself from real dangers involved in that. But at the same time, not drive myself into a paranoid lunacy, you know what I mean? So there's two sides of the coin where you really have to be aware, and you have to be resilient, and you have to have a lot of energy to deal with all this stuff, and it's not easy. And that's one of the reasons why so many people kind of come and go. It comes in terms of like political involvement, or not even political involvement, just involvement in trying to do something, because it's a taxing thing. But I do think the more people that are even free thinking at all, the better, and the more people that just keep pushing, if nothing else than just to talk about these sorts of things. I think that's a step in the right direction. The more safety in numbers, safety and strength in numbers. The more people doing this, the less controllable it will be. You can't control. You can't fully control anything. Actually, is one of the things that people need to remember, and that's one of the things that, as an individual, that can kind of put your mind at ease when you remember that, no one can fully control you except for yourself. So that's something that can kind of ease the tension. Look, there may be all these sinister elements out there and corruption within everything. There's corruption everywhere. I got to look out for that. But look, I'm in control of me, and all this corruption outside of me, I'm not going to let it completely take over my life. I'm going to do something to take my life back. And so that's the big challenge we all have ahead of us, I suppose.
Yes, and free thinkers have the gift of creativity, so we can change things up and switch things around and fly under the radar. But the MOs that we're looking at have been around since, psychopaths in charge have been around. I mean, they've been around forever, and it's the same MO. It doesn't really change very much. It's still very recognizable, the MO, of control, and that is, how do you control the masses? Through fear. Fear is the main mechanism to control, and if you don't even have to present a real danger or threat, you just have to make people believe that it's real. And I think that we can see that with the whole NSA spying thing. That's pretty scary. That's some scary shit. But you know what? As somebody who works for the government, I happen to know that they would have to hire millions of analysts to contextualize all of that data. And we don't have the money to do it because it's going to fight these stupid fucking wars all over the planet and to, subsidizing corporations that have enough of their own fucking money. So, that's ironic. We got to keep
that in mind. There are projects. That's why ideally those people in positions of power that do want to have sort of this understanding of everything in the world all at once, they want to fund these big projects in Silicon Valley that for AI systems that can mine patterns or data mine. You've got the huge data sets. That's easy to do. Everything when it comes to doing stuff online, it's all cataloged, and it's just put into giant databases. Anything that you can do through a computer can be database. That's one thing. But as you're saying, the contextualization, that's the difficult part. And so the ideal situation is creating AI systems that do contextualize things for you, and there are AI systems that do this, but again, it's about getting one that's advanced enough that can relay information back to you as some sort of power broker person, that you get this information back from the system that's usable somehow for you, whether it be swaying opinion through marketing, public relations, or whether it be strategic information in terms of military strategists, like what's the population in this area where we have troops? What's the population doing, and how might we conduct psychological operations on that indigenous population to further the war and further our cause there? A lot of what the CIA does, they love this sort of stuff. Those are the things to look out for, like the crazy projects of narrow AI, and there are quite a number of them. But when it comes to Silicon Valley, again, you've got Google pretty intensely going after the AI holy grail thing, and over the years they've gotten more and more overt in this. Years ago they were saying, we want Google to be an artificial intelligence. Now they're just kind of all out saying, we're developing artificial intelligence, and yes, we're buying up all these smaller Silicon Valley companies that are researching artificial intelligence, and so now they are just Google. So we're doing everything we can to create this AI situation, and we want it to be like the Singularity too, because we've hired on Ray Kurzweil as our general director, or whatever title he has. I can't remember. He's working there now, though. So fact and fiction is blending all over the place. There is real research going on in this area. We do have to remember that. But there's a lot of psychodrama thrown out there too, so we can't get too carried away with things, and again, we can't be too fearful. However, we should look to the Googles of the world and try to understand what they're actually doing as opposed to what they're saying.
Yeah, because we're never going to get the full story on that.
No, we're not. Yeah.
Until it's too late. Yeah. Bummer, dude. Yeah.
That's another thing we have to figure out how to deal with, that we're just never given the full story. So we have to be able to kind of be like detectives in a way, and also intuitive, and be able to intuit sort of the general sense of what's going on. We can't fool ourselves in thinking we know like all the details, because when we start doing that, we'll come up with ideas like, Ray Kurzweil signed a contract with an alien creature who has an advanced AI, and now Google bought that AI from the aliens, and now that AI is actually working in Washington, D.C. and is controlling us. We'll actually believe that sort of stuff if we go too far on, kind of like the right side of our brain. You know what I mean? We let that go wild. So we gotta we gotta keep ourselves in check and use both aspects. If we're talking about left and right brain, we have to use both of them. It's a task easier said than done, especially in today's world. And when we do that, we can use things like intuition to really get a sense of what's going on without knowing all the details. I really do believe that. And there's so much. There actually is tons of freely available information on actual hard data projects. I mean, if you're so inclined, you can find all sorts of projects they're working on in Silicon Valley that will prove to you that they are rigorously going after artificial intelligence. But the question really is like, okay, what sort of artificial intelligence? Again, is it narrow AI or is it artificial general intelligence systems that they're working on? Because I know that there are tons of narrow AI systems already developed and in use all over the board, all across the board. The artificial general intelligence question is still one that's still kind of science fiction, and I wonder if that's put out there in the public sphere as kind of like as a diversion, where you talk about sort of the science fiction aspect of this, and like, oh yeah, the machine is going to become alive and it's going to have its own intelligence. Well, all the while there are these narrow AI systems doing some real hard work and some advanced stuff, but nobody's talking about that. The AI researchers don't want to talk about that either when you ask them these questions. They much rather talk about the science fiction aspect of it. So I will point that out as an important fact, because that's something I've experienced, that the AI guys don't like talking about some of the real projects, and they love talking about the science fiction elements of this story.
And that seems like they like to talk about the science fiction because that's where, it makes it seem a lot better than it really is.
Yeah.
You can go into the area of, isn't that cool? Isn't that awesome? So with the movies and that form of propaganda, you get a lot of AI meets eugenics meets post-genderism all in one happy, picture. And so what I've seen when I've kind of looked back at the movies is that body enhancement, arms get blown off in wars, legs get blown off in wars. So fitting people with replacement, that's a good thing, right? I mean, these people, they had arms and legs before, and now they're going to get them back through modern science. That's a great thing, right? So that's how we first accept it as a good thing, because it brings somebody back to wholeness, and then after our minds accept that, then we take it one step further to, you can be superhuman, and isn't that great too? But it's a slippery slope, and I'm not saying that anybody, somebody who loses a limb shouldn't get a replacement, that I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying the way that it's sort of fetishized in media, and the way that it's presented as the coolest thing to come along, it's not just what it seems. I guess I'll put it that way. Yeah,
they definitely do sexualize things, and they do that very overtly. Lots of times in the movies, they do all they can to make these robots look like, well, I'm a man, so they make it look like a female, an attractive female that actually gets me aroused. They try their best at doing that. They do it over and over again. For me, it doesn't work, but I'm sure for some people it's starting to. You know what I mean? It's something that I mean, it's clear that this is going on. It works. It's such a deep level. Like, it's hard to know where to begin describing that. Obviously, you get the concept that sex sells. So if you're selling transhumanism, cybernetics, artificial intelligence, you want to use that angle. Because, it's a time-tested thing. It works. Yeah, that'll get people on board. But also, it's a strange new thing where people reject new things. So I would say that this isn't working on most people because people are afraid of new things, and there's good aspects of that, there's bad aspects of that. The good would be our survival instinct peaking up. Whenever we see something different, we kind of put our guard up, and that's a really good thing. The question here is, what is going on? And I mentioned this a couple times recently in different shows and interviews, in that I've noticed that there's this sort of love affair between man and his creation, kind of a love affair of man with himself, in a sense, and that's kind of an aspect of this too, like man loving himself, and that goes off into some interesting areas too. But anyway, man's love affair with his material creation, his science, his technology. He's created this thing from the raw material world somehow, and now he loves it. He loves it, but it's something that he made. So you see, the mother in this creation story, right? The lover and the mother, in a sense, is the earth. It's the Isis character. It's the primordial sort of feminine material aspect, which is the earth. So this gets into esoteric religion too, where there really is this love affair thing going on, and science and technology epitomizes it, and it gets into some really weird areas. But whenever you see that the sexualization of machinery and robots in media, it's an aspect of this. It goes really deep. And there are esoteric elements of this. It is man loving himself and kind of deposing himself at the same time. He's creating something, in a sense, solely, but in a sense not, because he needs that feminine principle to do it. But where does he end up going? He ends up creating a new life form. And this is the artificial intelligence or whatever transhuman creation ends up coming along. We see in movies all the time, there's a new being that's created. And eventually, that creation, which is a child of sorts, it's a brainchild, right? So this is all very alchemical too. That brainchild of man deposes man, a creator God, right? This is man in the godly, in his godly aspect, man's rise to godhood. Here it is, and this is what I was talking about in the book, is that man believes he becomes a god. He makes a new creation. That creation deposes him, and it goes on to become the new creator god, maybe. As far as the singularity story goes, that's what happens, but who knows. So I don't know. This ties into all sorts of weird religious ideas. I don't want to say, I don't want to throw out too many occult, esoteric buzzwords now, but there are plenty that you could use, and they'd be correct in this context.
Well, this is perfect, because it brings me around to what I want to talk about in the second hour, which is that really, I would say the ultimate goal of transhumanism is the removal of the mother. The removal of the natural mother, because in order for man to rise to godhood, man has to become mother and father. Yeah. Just like if we look back into, the history of religion, the history of religion is, the priest taking over the priestesshood. So in one aspect, the mother has been removed from humanity's consciousness in a spiritual sense, in the way that humanity even conceptualizes of divinity has been permanently changed by this history of religion that we can look at and point to and say this is something that happened. So when I was reading the part about eugenics, and then I got into the post-genderism, one of the things that popped up, well, the first thing that popped up in the news was this new method for gays to have children together that removes the mother. Well, they have to have a surrogate, but it's actually genetically the two gay partners' child. It's this new technology, and I instantly said to myself, this is eugenics, and this is transhumanism at work, because it's going to be presented as a good thing in the beginning, because we want our gay friends to have children, and we family members to be able to have their kids. That's a good thing. If it's something that they want, then it advances their cause in a way. Okay, so. But then I think, well, okay, I think they're just working out the kinks with gay families, and then once they work them out, it's just going to be a technology available for the elite. That's one way of looking at it. But and the other way is just, it's another way to remove the importance of the mother from the creation of a child, which is of the utmost important. I mean, both parents are important, of course, but when you look at it, every step of the way, it's another way to remove the mother. And the other big thing that popped up was Angelina Jolie's announcement of her latest medical decision, which is the removal of her ovaries and fallopian tubes. So far she's had her breasts removed, and she's had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed. And she's decided to announce it. So her announcement of it makes it a political thing.
Yes.
It's not just a personal medical decision anymore. It's out there in the political world for people to talk about.
Sure.
So I'm thinking about the way that we have this women's group on Facebook. It's called Women's Sacred Health, and so we talk about these issues. And this was a hot button issue. Okay, it got people really up in arms, because there are other women who have the same gene, and they have been fooled into believing that they're going to get cancer, and they have to do something about it. Again, fear used to control people. Okay, so I started asking questions, and I tried to be, as diplomatic as I could, because I could see that one of the women in the group who had this gene was reacting as though she was fighting for her life. And we were just asking questions like, I see eugenics in this, and I see transhumanism, and I see this as, not a good thing, because we were sold family planning, and then that turned into sterilization. What's this going to turn into? If you have that gene, mandatorily you're going to have your breast removed, because you'll be too much of a cost on the system to go through cancer. So I started asking questions, and I said, show me the data that supports this as a good idea, to remove healthy tissue, to remove healthy breasts and healthy ovaries, to prevent cancer. Show me the data. And so what I was shown was not raw data, but of course data that's been interpreted for me, right? And this is what I was shown, that a study of 639 women who had mastectomies, that because they had this gene, the BRCA1 or 2 gene, they had their breasts removed to avoid cancer. Okay, they followed them for 6 years. Big fucking deal. Okay, so 95% of those women who didn't have cancer before you cut their breasts off don't have cancer in 6 years. That's supposed to convince women to cut their breasts off? That's insane. That's beyond insane, okay? And it gets worse when it comes to the ovaries. I was shown 218 women were followed for 4 fucking years. Okay, you're removing parts of your body, and your aim is what? Longevity. What the hell does 6 and 4 years mean? It means nothing. Because I'm not sold on this, but I see how a celebrity making this choice. She's out there and she is cheerleading for, this brave new way to treat your body as a woman, which is cut parts off so you don't get cancer.
Unnecessary surgery.
Absolutely unnecessary. But we're supposed to cheerlead her because she's brave. And maybe she is. I would not want to face that. I would not want to be told I had this gene and I was going to get cancer. That's scary. But that's also a very deliberate manipulation of women to convince women to remove healthy parts of their body. And not just any parts of their body, but their female organs. Yeah. So I started thinking about how I myself, have been manipulated in my life through the medical industry, and in particular with regard to my ability to have children. I was told I would never have children. And there was a part of me that, I was told I needed to have a myomectomy to remove a fibroid, or I would never have children. And then, so I did it, and it just grew back. And I got it just grew right back. And it was actually the scar from that surgery that made my eventual pregnancy, that I finally did get pregnant 10 years later, high risk, super, super high risk, to the point where I was risking my life to have my son. Because they said it was in such a sensitive spot that, my uterus could burst at any time during the pregnancy. And this was something I tried to do for like 14 years, and I finally, got pregnant. And the old-fashioned way, too. Yay! Gotcha. But they told, and there's another interesting part of the story that when it grew back, I had a female doctor who wanted to do another myomectomy, and I said no. And she literally got mad at me for not submitting to her wanting to cut me open and I said, no, I just know in the depth of my being, if I let you guys do this to me again, I really won't have a kid. I just knew it. And and then she said, well, you'll never have a baby. And I was like, well, watch me.
Sure.
About it. I said, yes, I will.
They love to challenge you, don't they?
And
they love that. They take such pleasure out of that. The twisted ones, the ones that have allowed themselves to be twisted by the system, and actually believe the BS that's been thrown into their field of study. A lot of people just fall for anything, and it's unfortunate.
So when I did finally get pregnant, I was still part of the same OBGYN practice, but she wasn't my doctor anymore. A different doctor was, who specialized in the situation I was dealing with the scars on my uterus and everything. But she was the one on call for aftercare after I had to have a C-section and everything. So she was the one who had to care for me with my new baby. So I mean that was
maybe
cool.
She learned something.
Maybe she did. Yeah.
Maybe she thought about it. Like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I was wrong about that. Hopefully that's what happened.
Yeah, and thankfully I listened to my instincts, and I think that's what fear blocks for us is to be able to listen to our instincts with regard to our own bodies. I mean, because who better in a position to know what's going on in our own bodies but ourselves?
Yeah.
And it's fear that blocks that in every way.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that that's like the driving factor in medicine. Like that's how it operates. Like that's just kind of like taken for granted by everybody, doctors and patients. Like, oh, you just listen to the doctor and you do anything and everything they tell you to. In the end, yes, you have to consent to it, but just do what they tell you and you'll be fine. It's just I don't know. I know my wife and I have not nearly as horrible a story as yours, but a somewhat similar story with fertility and the doctor saying like, oh, well, your fertility issues won't get any better. And my wife and I just start reading a couple books on what to do about it, and we figure it out and everything's fine. And today I have a 2-year-old son, and you know what I mean? Like, well, see, there was an answer to the issue there. It wasn't unsolvable, and it was a completely natural answer at that. So I don't know. It takes. This is the same idea that we were talking about with the anti-vaccine folks, the just regular people that have taken it upon themselves to just ruthlessly go after anybody who has a problem with vaccines whatsoever. It's the same deal. It's like we've convinced ourselves that the way that we're doing things now, the system we have set up, the medical system, is infallible. It's somehow perfect. We know everything. Therefore, we don't have to change anything. We don't. God forbid we ask questions and think that some things might actually be dangerous that are practiced on a routine basis today. We're not allowed to do that because we're the problem when we do that. So it's, oh man, it's just, again, it sucks. I can feel the life getting sucked out of me when I hear stories like yours and when I have to deal with it myself, and just knowing that everybody in the world has to go through this, or everybody in the Western world with the healthcare as we know it here. This is our bane in terms of health problems. And of course, I'm not saying that the third world has anything, has a better situation or anything. It's just completely different. This is what we had to deal with.
Yeah, and we pay the most and we get the least. We pay the most and we get the worst outcomes because the system is designed to it's a self-perpetuating system, so it's designed to keep you coming back as a patient. It's not designed to resolve your issue and never see your fucking face ever again. You know, and that should be its main goal. But it's not, because that doesn't make money. Having somebody think that they have a syndrome because they're, being poisoned by something they eat every day, is going to make you a lot more money than saying, oh, you just need to cut this out of your diet, or you need to add this to your diet, or,
Yeah, exactly. Something simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
so easy.
And it's not that can fix everything, because there is a point of no return. I mean, you can't get cancer and eat coconut oil and it's going to go away. There's very specific types of cancer, and so real research does need to be added to what we know about natural remedies. We can't just be like I just eat flowers and I'll be okay. We have to balance it and say, well, what about this supplement, and supplements, because our diets are so messed up and our food chain is poisoned, basically, that we need supplements to get us to a point where our diets are kind of normal, but each person is lacking in kind of a different way, and our bodies respond to the poisons in our environment in different ways. And so we've been convinced by the medical system that all of these different sicknesses are different diseases, but it's the body's way of different ways of dealing with the same issue, in that it all goes back to the balance of the body. And
like toxins assaulting us from every which way. They're going to build up somehow.
And it's not only physical toxins, but there's the spiritual and emotional toxins that fill our space as well. I was thinking about just how aggressive people seem to be. Especially these keyboard warriors. They'll say the most fucked up things, and it's just and your name is what? And you're telling me what I need to do, and that I'm stupid, and all this stuff, just because you're defending a belief package, and so you've assumed that I come from another belief package based on a disagreement, and it's amazing. But I think people also are more aggressive on the roads. I don't remember people being this aggressive when I was younger in terms of road rage and things. I think that's increased. And, you know, there's a certain bubble, you know, that people are in when they get in their cars and they drive. They're in this bubble, and it's sort of, you know, everybody, you know, is in their way, and, you know. But it's really weird. I mean, somebody could run you off the road, and then they flip you off, you know, like you did something to them by, like, being in their way. It's really...
I know it.
It's odd. And I think
you know what's crazy to me, and this is a California story here for you. People drive like maniacs out here. They run each other up the road, like it's just crazy driving on the highways. However, we do have laws where we have to respect pedestrians, and you wait for them. And I know on the East Coast, pedestrians they wouldn't jaywalk because they're in big danger. And at crosswalks, they have to like wait before they go across the crosswalk, and they have to look a million different ways. So on the East Coast, the pedestrians are a real defensive state. But on the West Coast, people are actually where they're usually horrible to each other's drivers, they're actually very good to pedestrians, just because I think it's a law that's been mandated by the state that the Californians could get on board with. Okay, I know this is legally I have to do this, so I'm going to be nice now. But when that person gets into their car in the parking lot and gets on the road, I'm going to run them off the road. You know what I mean? So it's really weird.
So perhaps the paradise engineering's not working too well, because people are pissed off. People are really, really pissed off. I've noticed that. There's this general sense of dis-ease.
Before we go any further, I have to mention the Angelina. I have to talk about the Angelina.
Yeah, please do.
There, first of all, with these new methods of creating children, and it's being sold for gay people to have children, the essence of that, to me, is they're taking the human being as it is and making us dissatisfied with its natural state. Now, if you're gay and you're in a relationship, you can't procreate. Naturally, it's impossible to do. People up until this point just kind of dealt with that. It's like, well, that's how it is. I'll go on with my life. Maybe I'll adopt someone, you know, that's cool. But now it's like, no, it's not right that I can't do it. Biology is cheating me. So I applaud all these new scientific methods because, you know, they're giving me what's rightfully mine. So in the beginning, it's a dissatisfaction with the natural state. Like, I can't have this. I won't accept this. And taking that further and further, I mean, we go to full transhuman mode eventually. And people aren't thinking in those terms. People don't think about where eventually this will go. However, that's the truth. But with Angelina Jolie in particular, the removing of the breasts and the ovaries, I think I had vaguely heard the story about the ovaries, but until you mention it here, I'd totally forgotten about it. But I knew about the breast thing, but anyway, she's kind of an androgynous sort of person, and the people who pushed her out, the fame machine, the thinking minds behind the fame machine, the real occult thinking minds that are at work there, understand that she is an androgynous individual, and they market her as such, and they use her as such, like, oh yeah, she's androgynous. She's obviously is a female, and we put her out there as a sex symbol too. But the occult thing is always that she's kind of this androgyne. She's got male and female sort of things going on with her, and so they pull anything that a big celebrity does is some sort of stunt, some sort of PR stunt. If it's always in part to push their own persona, their own celebrity, so that celebrity gets more famous. And of course, it's done in some sort of philanthropic way where they're doing some sort of wonderful work. And again, you know, Angelina Jolie's so brave for doing this. We need to fall on her feet, and praising her for bringing society to the next level or whatever. So they've got that going, and so now Angelina Jolie's career is going to be furthered. So, you know, obviously that's why the celebrities get on board in one sense. But beyond that, the people that use the celebrities as tools for their agendas. Now, that's where the real action is. And again, what is the agenda being sold here? I think it does tie back to the whole post-genderism thing where, females removing their female anatomy is not seen as strange, but it's seen as progress. And progress to what? What are we doing here? And again, you brought up all that medical data, which is basically just a bunch of numbers that they said were good, but when you look at them, you're like, that doesn't really prove anything, does it? It doesn't matter. People won't look at that. They'll just hear what the story is. There's so much of this, and celebrity is used more and more to push big agendas. I would say this whole Angelina Jolie thing does tie into post-genderism. It ties into transhumanism. It's got lots of occult things going on. She's always been androgynous from day one, but they're taking it a step further where they're almost turning her into a man biologically. I don't know if that's... so things are getting very weird, and instead of people going, whoa, this is really weird, what the hell does this actually mean? Like, what are they doing to her? What's this unnecessary surgery? They go, no, Entertainment Tonight told me this is really cool, and she's really brave, so I'm going to just cheerlead that and be all excited, or at least pretend to be, because I don't have a clue about anything that's going on. I just repeat what the television tells me. so it's wild. It's wild.
It really is. And then, as a woman, I can tell you that for my entire life, the message from the media is you're not good enough in every possible way. So if you have really big boobs, they're too big. You need a reduction. If you have small boobs, they're too small and you need to get them enhanced. The boobs aren't just good enough as they are. In reality they are. I mean, it's all good. Small, big, in between, whatever. That's the beauty of creation, is this, the way that we are naturally is beautiful. And we've been sold for years this idea that how we are naturally is not good enough. And that's extremely dangerous. And I really think at this point it's really affecting boys as much as it is girls. Boys are worrying about gaining too much weight, just like girls are now. It's insidious, and it's...
Yeah, that took some doing, too, because in the beginning, the marketing definitely was towards the women, and then that's where the focus was. But you're right. Yeah, more and more, the younger boys especially are very concerned with their look and all that stuff that women should have been interested in or concerned about in the beginning. Now, not only them, but the boys and the girls are both concerned about this thing that doesn't matter.
And that's how the post-genderism plays a role, because if you have everybody confused about their gender and what's the thing about the transsexual or the two-spirit in Native tradition is that yes, there's this special role for the priest class or the priestess class or the holy class of transsexuals or two-spirits, but that's because they're rare. And it's their rareness that makes them special, that makes them needed to balance the society out. It's not normal for everyone to be androgynous. That's not, that's out of balance. That's not, but the way that it's presented in a political way, and, especially this sort of cultural Marxism, I guess, is what it's being called these days, is that, if you point out that it's not normal for all of us to be androgynous, you're against transsexuals, and you've sinned against the LGBT community, and that you need to be more open-minded, and and it's like I've been an advocate for the LGBT community since I was a teenager, so I don't really need to be lectured to about that, but again, there's no reason.
You're trying to help point out how that community is being used to further bigger things that they're not being made aware of.
Yes, absolutely. And so I also noticed that, when this story came out about, the gay people having babies together and stuff, that, people got vicious about it, really, really vicious because it has to do with the belief packages that people have been sold. So, if you're for gay rights, then you're for gay people having their own babies with this new technology. Not really. No, I'm not. I'm not for that. And I don't have to be, and it doesn't mean that it's personal against anyone.
It's always it's a semantics trick. It's a magic trick to get you looking away from the big picture issue and focus more on a hot button, touchy, personal subject. You make things personal. Like, oh, look, if you're against this, you're against all gay people. And that's not true at all. And so they just completely mask. That's why we can't see the big picture in anything, because this is done to us about 500 times a day on a daily basis. If you're watching TV as much as most people do, then that's probably about as how many times you get this. Because just constantly, this shallow reasons for things happening. And you're never supposed to... Well, we've got machines working hard at recognizing patterns, right? Artificial intelligence researchers making big bucks developing these systems. However, the average person is incapable of pattern recognition just in their everyday life, when that's a very important skill, one that's being lost. And I feel as though it's one that's innate in us, but one that's being lost. And our self-defense is dwindling because of this, especially from a mental standpoint. We don't know how to create our own opinions. First of all, we damn sure don't know how to defend our opinions if we're able to have them. And due to this lack of pattern recognition, this lack of seeing the big picture, it comes back to that again.
And for those of us who, by some miracle, are still able to use that ability, we're treated like the freaks,
Right.
People get mad at you for saying, look at this pattern. Like, it's right there in front of our faces. Look at it. Please.
Conspiracy theorist does, after all.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It actually is. And, what I see out there, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. You, me, and our friends in the podcasting world have been talking about the truth movement and how they're sort of imploding at the moment. And there's all of these really super wild stories out there that people are just buying it,
Yeah.
Michelle Obama must be a transsexual. She's, what? Where on earth are you getting that? Like, and everything that they come up with, you can be like, well, here's her, picture from grade school. She's a girl here. Like, did her parents from birth say we're going to pretend like she's a girl because someday she's going to marry the president? Give me a fucking break. Like, use your brain, people. And the terrible thing is that, like the whole neo-Nazi phenomenon, there's people out there that we thought were, kind of cool. Sorry, there's somebody. I'm in a parking lot, folks. It's okay because I did it earlier. I accidentally had my car going off earlier. So, okay, here we go. So where was I? People believing outrageous things, and we have this flat Earth phenomena that people are buying. That's back. And when stuff like that is just so wild and just out of control, like not using your basic reasoning skills, to think your way beyond what's being presented to you, it makes you think like, okay, where's this coming from? Come on. And some of the people out there that we thought were, presenting valid information are also presenting this stuff, and so it makes you go, it's hard to pick it apart, and so I can't, I don't have the perspective of someone who's sort of been doing this for a long time. So I was doing other stuff when this whole truth thing started. I mean, of course, I immediately thought the story we were told was complete bullshit in 9/11, but I didn't get all involved in a movement because I always knew it was bullshit. Every story that we've been presented is not the full story. So it wasn't a stretch for me. So I didn't get all like, oh my God, it sucked. It was a horrible thing, and so. But since then, I've been looking at how we're forced to keep looking at it. So you're forced to keep looking at it. If you're a free thinker and you will entertain conspiracy theories, you're forced to look at it over and over, and then as the mainstream media forces you to remember it every year, and there's these death cult qualities that pop up every year with that, and the memorial and things like that is like this year they moved the remains back to the memorial. Why? Nobody's asking why. Why would they do that? Do you bring the remains back to a crash site?
Yeah.
Do you do that? Yeah. Like what the fuck? And yeah. So some of the family members were, outraged by that. But yeah, but they were silenced, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think these wild things get put out there so that we're not questioning the stuff that's right in front of us that's totally outrageous, that's true.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy that they're moving a dead body from its final resting place back to the point where it was murdered.
Yeah, it's really weird. And it's not just one, but it's all of those remains because they're all mixed up together because they were, blown to pieces or, turned to dust, really. So it's thousands of people. And that's really disturbing. Like, you just don't want to go down that road. It's like I don't know, it's almost as bad as like putting somebody's severed head on a spike and just putting it in the town square. Or usually that's what you do in war. You kill somebody, you chop off their head, and you put their head up on a stake to scare your enemy off. Like, look, we killed your leader. Their head is on a stake. It's a similar sort of thing. It's just using that sort of using death as an intimidating factor, and that's what they're doing. They're intimidating the public at large. It's not read as such. They're intimidating us into continuing to believe this narrative that they've crafted around 9/11. And ironically enough, it's always about, the victims and their families and doing what's right by them. But it really isn't, because we're going against their wishes to do this. But we'll act like it's not. We'll just, we'll keep them quiet so you don't realize that. We'll just keep going with our stories. It's about the victims and their family and doing what's right by them. When they're just, the death cult aspect is very, very much true. Very dark, very disturbing, using these warlike intimidation methods that, again, they're done in such a subtle way that we don't recognize them. And as I was saying before, the history of the 20th century was really the perfection of that process. Like, how can we wage war on the public at large and have them have no idea that that's what's going on? Do it in so passive aggressively that they think that we're helping them, that at the most we're just having this like nice little conversation with them, and we're talking about how we can make the future a better place. So it's the epitome of passive aggressiveness. It's the epitome of these psychological techniques that have been developed throughout the past century, or have been perfected, you might even say, or even
getting more advanced as days go on, to this point where our world, these news stories, this September 11th memorial, it's for someone like you or I, we're wondering, like, how to get to this point. And there you have it. And it's so bizarre now.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing about it's all about the families and the victims, and is that those who question are they're re-traumatizing the victims, not the Lords of Perception keeps re-traumatizing Americans through this death cult ritual every year, but those who question the narrative are traumatizing the victims' families, right? So, let's not look any deeper, folks.
And diverting attention away from you, the one that's causing the real problems. Put it on somebody else who's trying to actually do something right about the situation, trying to fix things. And they're the problem. The ones that are trying to fix the problem are the real problem.
Yeah, and that ties into the whole, paradise engineering thing, because, for those who just don't want to face the negative because you're bringing everyone down when you look at the negative or you question, so the system of control moves to marginalize or destroy those who question. And, it's the same on smaller scales, like if you work for a federal agency and you complain about being psychologically tortured for 3 years and gaslighted and have your reputation and career destroyed. If you complain about that, well, it's a manager that did it to you, so once you're in a management position, any complaint against you is a complaint against the agency. So the agency, system moves to protect the manager and to marginalize and move out and isolate the complainer. And instead of looking at what happened and actually searching for the truth and then making it right from there. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think we're probably at the point where it never will.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like just completely throwing out the what it is refusing anybody the right to even improve their own lives, because that's a big part of your life, your professional life. If you can't improve things by just speaking up for yourself, then what can you do? And there's so much demoralization. I mean, we get back to this over and over again today, but I mean, just our world's set up so much to demoralize us over and over again, and think that we can't improve ourselves. They do everything in their power to stop us from making ourselves better, and then we damn sure aren't going to make their system any better. So when our entire lives hinge on that system, we can't improve ourselves, and therefore, we have no independent power left. If we believe that, at least, we believe that we have no independent power left, and we're dependent on the system to do everything for us. That's what we're going to get. We're going to get kicked around a whole bunch. So the real solution is looking where we can to be independent, when and where we can, as much as possible. And that's the way out.
Yeah, stubbornness also really helps.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And willpower, so I've learned, just how much willpower I really have, and I'm pretty impressed with myself.
As you should be.
Because I just keep showing up, until a better way to feed my family comes along. I'm just going to keep showing up, and they can't get rid of me because I've done nothing wrong. So,
that's a funny thing to do too. When they wish that they could get you on something, but they have nothing on you, so you just kind of keep going, and it's completely frustrating. That's something that I've had fun with throughout my life too, is just situations like that. And it's fun to, I think people should revel in that sort of thing when they get the chance and realize that, and bask in the sun for what it's worth. It may not be much, but like, enjoy it.
but it also affirms that we do have personal power, even in a really oppressive situation. We still have personal power that we can use, and we still have will. We still have our will, and so that's what I got right now, and I've got some other plans in the future. I mean, I certainly don't plan on. I know I'm not going to have a career there. That's just basically not going to happen for me. So, I'm putting myself into creating this nonprofit. I'm going to do a little podcast about it soon. I'm going to try to get it out in like a week. But I'm founding a nonprofit called Yellow Thunder Food Sovereignty, and we're going to start it with a community garden, and we're going to work it into an organic farmette, and and at least it will employ my husband, and maybe once we get it off the ground, we can start and get 501c3 status. We can start getting farming grants and things like that. But
sure.
It's I did nonprofit before the government, so I know how to keep the books. I know how to write grants, and so I'm just going to go for it. I won't know if it's possible until I try it, so I'm just going to do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. That's exciting. The organic gardening thing is so much fun anyway. I mean, that's something I really enjoy doing in my own yard. I use my own yard as a little garden area there, and I know that I have a lot of fun with it. So the fact that you're making a life and trying to make a nonprofit organization based on that would be a good way to go.
And I have done a lot of community gardens with.
Yeah.
And so I know the people around here for doing that. When my son was in preschool, he went to Head Start because I was unemployed at the time. And we all got together and started growing food. And once people heard about it, they started showing up. And we had master gardener classes. We had canning classes, all kinds of stuff that people are just dying to,
Yeah,
you just have to get it off the ground. You just have to exist first. And once you're in existence, then, the support and the help comes that's out there. So. Yeah,
it's definitely something that people it's a need. It's something that people want to do, too. So, that's awesome. Yeah, those community garden things have always been something that I thought are really cool and that there should be more of.
Yeah, and where I live, it's a very rural area. We have the space to grow lots of food. And every redneck has a tractor. I mean, every single one. So, even though we don't have our own big tractor yet, we can still ask our neighbor to plow up an area for us and give them the money for gas, and we're good to go until we get our own. We have a bunch of broken down old stuff that we keep fixing over and over again. Because those suckers are expensive. Tractors are like thousands of dollars.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, farm equipment's crazy. Yeah, well, that's one of the ways that the big agri companies have come in and taken over is that they're the only ones that can afford all the equipment now.
Yeah, that's how the family farm has. Well, that's one of the many ways the family farm has been destroyed in America. Is corporatization is the biggest part of that. Is that corporations bought up all the farmland and then pushed out all the the stubborn farmers who didn't want to give up their way of life, and and as far as organic gardening, it's already organic farming is already labor intensive because you're not using all those chemicals and things like that to make it easy. So there's that. So it's more labor intensive. Plus there's all of these certification expenses to be certified as organic, so I'm not going to go through that red tape and I'm just going to say I used these organic seeds. I didn't use the chemicals, I don't have certification, but I didn't use any chemicals, and so until that process gets more streamlined and it should be free. And in fact, we should be paid for the labor, and the labor-intensive, and for upholding more sustainable farming techniques. But instead, it's the high chemical agriculture that's given all the grants and given all the subsidies, really, and the family farmer is left to struggle. And so, but it's something that needs to survive. It's a knowledge that needs, and food banks aren't cutting it. People are hungry. I mean, people are really hungry. There's no jobs. So if you're not working, you can tend a garden instead of just going to the food bank. So another thing, just because we only have 15 minutes left, and I want to talk about your book more. Another thing that came up, I didn't get to check this out because I don't have TV anymore, but I did see on Facebook that NBC News made a prediction that Americans will be chipped by 2017. I didn't get a chance to check that out, but there was a meme going around about Brian Williams. Well, there's lots of memes about him, so I don't know if it's true or not. But wow. Look into that, people. See if it's true. But if they're already pushing the chipping, voluntary chipping, that it's presented as this cool new thing that it's not really a big deal. I think I saw some stuff also in the media over in the UK about it. Little demonstrations and things like that make it look like no big deal. And here's the benefit. It's there's all these benefits to it. You don't even have to carry around your credit card anymore, or your birth certificate, or whatever else they put on there. Scary stuff.
I had not. That's a recent story, the 2017 chipping thing. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't know if it's true, because I don't watch the news anymore, and I just didn't get a chance to check it out. So, but I did see that out there, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And it's interesting if it is true, and it's interesting if it's not too, because why is it out there on the internet? If it's both ways, it's interesting.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's a rumor, if nothing else. Yeah, 2017 seems a little quick for that. Not to say that technology isn't already in existence. It is. But it's the hard part is always selling it, and implementing it is the real hard part. The only way you can implement something is by selling it first, and then you see the necessity for marketing. You have to market these products because nobody's going to care about them. Nobody's going to want them if they're not sold persuasively. And that's exactly what marketing is. So much of news media certainly is that. It's just marketing for different products. In this case, it would be this transhuman technology developed over many long decades, mainly by the military-industrial complex. I know the Office of Naval Research was huge on the implantable brain chips in particular. That they've been big on that, but there have been countless projects done. And again, when you're trying to follow up on all the DARPA projects, it's just you can't do it. There's too many for one person to keep track of, and that's really the nature of the beast we're dealing with now. Is that this technological system that's being built up all around is in so many areas, so many different technologies, and so many different institutions working on the same project. It's the same project with many little. It's like a root system. There's one trunk of the tree, but then it goes out into some bigger roots and smaller roots off of that. That's how things work. So it's one big tree, and those who are involved in the little offshoot, tiny roots don't. When they don't see the big picture, they don't see the tree because they're stuck in the dirt. First of all, they're in the dark. When you're a root, you're underground. You can't see. You can't see the open air and the sunlight above, which does exist. It may as well not if you're a root and you're not looking for anything other than that. But there's a whole big tree that you're working to create, and again, if there's something that we need to work on in the world at large, it's pattern recognition and seeing the big picture and understanding that there is this transhuman project. And a lot of us, if we think about it, might be working to further it. And we hadn't even really realized that until we stopped to think about it. I think I would venture to say there'd be countless people that would be in that situation. And they never really thought about it, but, oh yeah, like what I do kind of furthers things along in this or that way. And we're just not encouraged to think like that, because a population full of people thinking about what they're actually doing isn't a slave population. It's just toiling away without thinking. So, I don't know. Big changes need to happen. Hopefully they will. Hopefully the big changes that happen aren't the wrong ones, the transhuman changes. They're the right changes, and the human changes that need to happen, just where we start revising our own behavior to a large enough extent where we can take the power back, take our own power back that we have been giving away over, I mean, again, how long has it been? You could say over our entire lifetime, or you could go further back over many different generations. You could go back centuries, millennia. You go back to unknown human prehistory and say there was somewhere in prehistory that something happened and we've come all this way and here we are now, and we don't even understand that we have a problem. All we can do is we can sense it. Everybody can sense that there's a lot of problems going on. Everybody can just innately feel that, and that hasn't been ripped out of us yet. But to be consciously aware of things, that takes a bit of work, the kind of work that we're not used to doing. I think if more people are willing to do that sort of work, then we'll be better off.
Yeah, and that's a whole other part of it is it's you have to do the work, and if you have not been encouraged or even really taught about critical thinking, it's certainly not encouraged at all, really, in our overarching culture. But I fear for the type of environment our kids are growing up in schools. This Common Core thing is pretty disturbing, and I think that's really part of it, because it's confusing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It pisses people off. So you have the kid who's trying to understand this stuff that doesn't make sense, and then you have the parent trying to help the kid, and it doesn't make sense. So it drives this wedge. And I already see it in my son, who's like desperately, trying to make sense of the things that he's being taught in school, but yet he listens to me and he listens to his father, and so he knows there's something else up. So, I have to create a life where I'm able to homeschool him, because he's he's already really seeing through stuff and really starting to rebel against it, and I don't want to put him in a situation where that's gonna because there's another aspect to schooling, which is isolating the free thinkers, and putting them in the program for medication or prison, basically. So I would like to remove him before it gets to that point, because he's only going to get bigger and stronger and more athletic, and
more of a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's been manageable up until now, but we're just getting to the point where every aspect of his creativity and free thinking is discouraged. He gets in trouble for reading at inappropriate times. He gets in trouble for drawing. This ridiculous.
Do they have art class in his school there?
Yeah, but he can't be self-led in his, sure. So that's really frustrating for him, is that he can't work on the art projects that he wants to do. He has to do the ones they want to do, and they're the projects that reinforce the propaganda that he's being taught in the school, and so they don't inspire him, obviously, because he already sees them for what they are.
But man, a lot of that Common Core thing ties back to the technology too, because I know they're pushing even the tablets and stuff through that, and integrating that into the classroom, and kind of in a sense selling those products in a way, but also using them as tools to learn, and that comes with its own bag of problems too.
Yes, and so they're using technology to not only test what they know in terms of the curriculum, but also they're testing them on psychological levels too. That's a whole another thing that's built into this online testing, is testing. Again, they're isolating the free thinkers, they're isolating the critical thinkers, and in these tests. That's another level that's coming in, that's come out in the news lately as well.
Interesting. Yeah, so they're psychologically profiling students, and in a whole new technologically advanced way. In the past, an individual teacher could get a sense for all the kids and what was up with them, but now they can record everything in a computer and do all these advanced personality profiles their whole school career through, and record it forever. Permanent record, right? Permanent record is more real than it's ever been now. It's digitized.
Right. And pigeonhole. You can pigeonhole a kid for the way he thought in second grade.
Sure.
It's really some dangerous stuff. So I desperately want to unplug him from that and just be able to allow him to develop his creativity and free thinking. Unencumbered.
It's crazy I'm just thinking how crazy it is that we all kind of rely on these machines to be accurate and to work in our best interest, and that the people at the school just are able to accept that this is going on and be okay with that, and not see all the horrible ramifications of it. That's again similar to the anti-vaccine people. This too boggles my mind that just average people don't say, hey, hold on a minute, maybe we're doing the wrong thing here. Let's rethink the situation. That's not happening. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's scary too. And the thing is that I've had many conversations, with the teachers and the principal, and he's had a couple of principals in his school since he's been there. And these are reasonable people. They're not like Nazis or anything. They're perfectly reasonable people, but they're, they've gone to a lot of school to become what they are, and so they kind of have to toe the line and in order to maintain what they've, the career that they've designed for themselves. So they're left in the position to defend things that they might not even agree with on a personal level.
Yeah. Well, this gets all back to the phony American dream that I was mentioning at the beginning, and that we all think that we have this independent power in America to change things, and we're all that's the way things are. However, we're trained to just be slaves to the system and not question, and toe the line and just keep things going and go along to get along. And that goes against this whole weird sort of American dream program that we've had at the same time that says the opposite of that, like we're all sorts of free and independent. I guess that goes a long way in explaining all the false versions of freedom and independence that are sold to us through marketing, and perhaps they're all put out there to get us to believe that American dream story is real when we're doing the opposite.
Yeah. Yep. Go along to get along. Because, and we're so overwhelmed by all the technology. This technology that's been sold to us to make our lives easier isn't making our lives easier. It's actually draining our lives more. It's taking us away from the real world more. And so we're exhausted by that. And a lot of people might not even understand why they're exhausted. And it's because a tremendous amount of energy goes into, our online existence. So,
indeed.
So balance again.
Yeah, for sure.
Where can people find your book? What's the best place that benefits you the most where people can purchase your book?
Sure. Well, ageoftransitions.com is my website, and there you can buy my book. I have a paperback version available, and there's also a link to an ebook copy that you can buy through Amazon. I'd suggest the paperback version. You get a free DVD copy of my film, The Age of Transitions, along with that. So yeah, check that out. Check out the website in general, just to see my podcasts and different work that I have up there for you. And I want to thank you very much, Kira, for having me on the show today.
Thank you. And I definitely would like to have you back at some point. I'm really glad that you took the time to talk to me tonight.
Yeah, it's been fun. I had a lot of fun last time and this time as well. It's a good show. I really like the show.
Thanks so much. And thank you, listeners.
Hey, you